In this episode, I'm going to demonstrate how to remove and reinstall the striker from your handgun. Stick around until the end to pick up all the points right here on Florida Responsible Carry. Hi guys, Steve here. Removing the striker from your gun is something you don't need to do every time you clean your gun. However, there may be times you need to remove it to inspect it or possibly replace it should it become damaged. So with that being said, let's get right to removing that striker.
For my demonstration today, I will be removing this striker from a Smith & Wesson M&P 45. I've already taken the slide off the frame of the firearm and removed the barrel and the recoil spring, and you don't need to really remove those two, but just makes working on the slide a little bit easier. The only tools that you really need today is either a small screwdriver or other device in order to push a piece of plastic forward in the striker, and I'll show you that in a minute, and a punch or something to hold the striker block down. So let me go ahead and show you how the striker and striker block work. Now this may be a little old school for some of you, but if I have some viewers that aren't really familiar with these particular items, I'm going to go ahead and cover it anyway. Flipping our rail over, and let me see if I can get a little bit closer here. Okay. Right here is our striker, this little bar right here. And like I said, this is a Smith & Wesson M&P, but all semi-automatic firearms have the same configuration, maybe a little bit differently placed in here, but this is your striker, and what the striker does, it moves forward. There's a chamber underneath this rail here that it slides through, and when it slides through, it protrudes, the firing pin will protrude from this hole right here, this hole right here that I'm pointing to. But the striker itself is held into place by this button right here, which is our striker block. This button is a spring retained button that when the firearm's in battery position, this button is depressed, releasing a little latch that's holding the striker into place here. And to demonstrate, I will just push this button down, and what I need you to do is just keep an eye towards the front here, and you will see the firing pin slightly protrude from the hole, and that is what's actually striking the primer of our cartridge and setting it off. Now, you don't necessarily need to remove the striker each time you're cleaning firearm, but it's a good idea to depress your striker block and push the striker forward a couple of times to see if it is moving freely and there's no resistance. The resistance could be a result of some dirt and dust and gum buildup or whatever, or it could be a sign of a damaged striker. And in either case, at that point, I would recommend going ahead and removing your striker to inspect not only the striker, but the chamber in which it slides through there. So, what we need to do to remove the striker here is we need to remove the end plate, and the end plate is this portion right here. That's the end plate, and that simply just slides down this direction, and it's in a groove, but it's held into place by a locking mechanism. This plastic, it's actually attached to the striker itself. There's a piece of plastic in here. And I'm going to move forward or zoom forward just a little bit more. And if you look in here, you'll see this little tiny piece of plastic in here, that little white right there is down here. That's a little plastic casing that goes around the striker itself and protrudes through the back here and is actually inside some grooves in the plate itself that retains the plate into position, so it won't slide off the end of the slide itself. It won't move off the slide itself until it's unlocked here. So let's go ahead and remove the plate and the slide at this point. Alright, now what we need to do is to push this piece of plastic right here that we can see, this white piece of plastic needs to come forward as far as we can in order to unlock the piece, this rear piece of plastic, the white piece that you see down there. That needs to be removed from the little grooves inside the back plate, and that will release the plate itself. Now, and in order to do this, we need to push this, as I said, to push this little piece of plastic forward, but we need to depress our slide block first, and then using the screwdriver, after that's pushed in, push that down as far as you can. And this gets a little frustrating here, but have at it. Once you've done it a few times, it'll become old hat. Pushing that forward, and as you can see, the back plate just slid right off. This is a piece of plastic I was telling you that's retaining the slide, and these are the grooves in the back. Get this out of the way. You can see the grooves here that the piece of plastic slide into. I'll demonstrate how that holds it into place in a second. Now let's go ahead and remove the striker. If you attempt to just pull the striker out or back the striker out, it won't come out at all. First, you have to release the striker block here. I recommend kind of putting your finger over the striker itself. You may hear a click when you push the button down, you may not. You heard in this case a click. At this point, you can back the striker out. It's not going to fly out like it would some other retention springs will. It'll slide out without any problem at all. Now, here's your striker here, and at the end, that's the pin that protrudes from the hole that strikes the primer. You can give your striker just a visual inspection to make sure everything's okay. It's not damaged, it's not gummed up or anything, and if you want, just to preserve it, you don't need to do this. The striker itself stays pretty much clean because there's not really any debris that'll get into that hole. That hole, the chamber it slides down is right here. Let's see if I can focus it a little more. Okay, that's the hole right here. And if you look down the hole, I'm going to put my finger underneath there and see if you can see the reflection of my nail. You can barely see it, but you can see where it comes out. You can slide or shine a light down there to see if there's any gunk or dirt down there. It shouldn't be because the hole is so small that only this pin can get through it, so not really anything can get into the chamber itself. You just mainly want to inspect the striker itself for damage and see if there's any dirt or anything on it. And if there's a little dirt on it, you just wipe it down. You can just wipe it down. That shouldn't be an issue at all. So, going back to the back plate. As I said, the back plate faces out. That's the side that faces out outside the slide itself. Right here is the retention grooves. The slide itself, the striker that is, itself, I say slide one more time, I'll smack myself. The striker itself, as you can see, just fits right into that groove, and doing so prevents the plate from falling off the back of the slide. Basically, that's how to remove the slide. Striker. I did it again, didn't I? Got a bad thing about that. So let's go ahead and reassemble the striker itself back into the firearm. It's basically just reversing the process. And the trick is going to be putting the plate back on. It does get a little bit tricky, but we'll go ahead and show you how that's done. And just it'll get you frustrated until you've done it a few times, and the frustration and anxiety will ease up, trust me. So let's go ahead and put that striker back in. Reverse the process. Just slides right into the chamber itself. And as you see, you push so far and it stops until you push down on the striker block. Pull the striker all the way forward, release the striker block, and that part is accomplished. Now let's go ahead and put that back plate on. Reseating the back plate can be a little frustrating until you've done it a few times, and after that your frustration and anxiety level will reduce itself. The frustration is still there from time to time, but your anxiety level will definitely be gone. So what we need to do is this groove right here. I'm going to rotate this. You can see a groove right here. This groove right here, and there's one on this side, is what the plate slides into. You can see it's got little tiny tongue and groove type. This is the tongue part that slides into that groove there. Now, you can also see the part of the striker, the plastic part of the striker that retains the back plate itself, is sticking out way beyond the groove itself. So what we need to do is we need to push that in so it'll allow this to slide into place, the back plate to slide into place and lock down into position. Now, what we can do at this point is go ahead and find an object such as the punch here and push this plastic in, and it'll push in some, but it won't go in all the way, and it still kind of blocks the groove holes here. Now, once that plastic's been pushed in, take your back plate, get it into position, and you still have a piece of the plastic that is blocking its completion into the groove. So you need to take a device such as a punch again, punch it all the way in, remove the device, and the back plate is now locked into position. As you can see, it moves slightly, which is normal, but it's not coming out. It's locked into place. What I recommend at this point is to go ahead and to punch the striker lock down once. Pull the striker forward to make sure that it's sliding properly. It is. And the end plate has now been successfully reinstalled. At this point, put your barrel back in, put in your recoil spring, make sure it's locked into place, and now you're ready to reassemble your firearm.
I hope this has provided you with some necessary steps on how to remove and replace the striker in your firearm. I have a question for you. Have you ever had to remove the striker from your firearm? If so, what was the reason you had to remove it? Leave your answer and other comments below. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the bell to be notified of newly uploaded content. Until next time, guys, be safe out there.